Thank you for joining us today for another installment of the Pharmacy Pathways series. I'm excited to share that we've expanded the series to encompass pharmacy technician career paths. I'm joined today by Kyle Siebert. He's a certified pharmacy technician who's currently a pharmacy operations supervisor at M Health Fairview in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Thank you for joining me today, Kyle.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just start right off by having you introduce yourself and tell us how you got interested in pharmacy.
So as you mentioned, I'm a certified pharmacy technician. I have about 8 years of experience. The pharmacy technician role it was kind of an accident for me. It was a college job for me. I was going for a branch of radiology. And two things I wanted out of my career were being able to give back to patients, giving back to my community, and playing a vital role in the healthcare system. And I realized that I had both of those in pharmacy technician. And that's when I started pursuing this as a career.
Very nice. So it sort of happened haphazardly for you, and you started noticing the role that pharmacy technicians, the really important role that they play within the healthcare system.
Exactly.
So once you started learning that, how did you begin exploring the career path as a pharmacy technician? What training and opportunities did you pursue to lead you down that path?
So for me, I feel like I have a little bit more experience than most pharmacy technicians. I have an accumulation of chain retail experience, inpatient experience, home infusion experience, specialty call center experience, and my most recent one, pharmacy management. All the training that I pursued, all the training that I've gotten has been on the job. It was all personal growth. Things that I sought out were like being a part of like committees that were in our departments, being a part of the scheduling process, and just things that I saw were interesting to me. Compounding hazardous drugs, things like that.
Nice. So no true formalized training, but everything you learned was really on the job, seeking out new opportunities to learn and grow. And as you expressed that interest, those were kind of came about, and you were able to delve more into them and gain those skills. That's great.
Yeah.
So now being in the inpatient or hospital setting, could you tell me a bit more about what interested you the most in this sort of pharmacy practice setting and eventually selecting it as your career path?
I think I just recognized that inpatient pharmacy technicians have a larger scope of practice. They kind of need to be a jack of all trades. They play a huge role in the pharmacy or the healthcare in a hospital setting specifically. We do everything from like non-sterile compounding to sterile compounding, hazardous compounding. We do a lot with automated dispensing cabinets, refilling those machines, deciding what's important to go into those machines, triaging, different issues between different departments like nursing with physicians, things like that.
Awesome. Now tell us a little bit more about your current position. I'd love to hear more about your practice site and your scope of responsibilities in your role as a pharmacy operations supervisor.
I think any operations leadership role, I mean, you do a wide variety of things, and some of those things, I'm part of the hiring process, disciplining, HR management, things like that, day-to-day operations, doing projects for workflow improvements. Also, I've mentioned those committees in the past that I've worked on. Right now, I currently do things like safety roundings with my direct reports, and then doing like diversion rounding with other departments, nursing, staff members that are up on the floors.
Very nice. So a lot of different components and interacting with not only your staff, but staff from other departments, which is really great. How the role of the pharmacy technician in a leadership sort of setting has evolved. So you previously were a staff pharmacy technician for many years, up until very recently. So could you tell us a bit about your transition from a staff technician position to now a supervisory role, and what sort of challenges and barriers did you face that you had to overcome in that transition?
Well, I think, personally and professionally, there was a lot of growth there. Um, you know, Now being a supervisor, I'm the face of management, to those frontline staff members. I'm constantly walking through Central, putting out those small fires, helping out frontline staff members with, little daily things that, might cause them some frustration. And I need to have those problem solving skills to help triage those problems. So kind of that mental framework, the communication that I need to have with them, whether it's, via email or, kind of keeping them in the loop and making sure that they know that I'm working on the issues for them. Also, having a different relationship with like other staff members, like pharmacists, for example. I was used to having tasks delegated to me from those pharmacists, and now they're asking for my opinions on different workflow processes inside of our central pharmacy. I think another challenge would be like my time management. Um, Having like that balance between I have a lot of meetings every day and also giving the attention to those frontline staff members because I think that is important to build an awesome relationship with them. And then kind of building on that, being a role model for those frontline staff members.
Absolutely. You touched on a lot of great points. Being in a leadership role, it's really important to manage those relationships with your direct reports as well as key stakeholders and other partners within the organization, and develop and build those relationships and rapport to achieve mutual goals. So that's definitely a good transition
Yeah.
that you experienced and a lot of skills that you gained. You mentioned previously you did some work with committees and currently with multidisciplinary committees. Could you speak a bit more about technicians' involvement in multidisciplinary collaboration, and how do you effectively collaborate with other members of the healthcare team?
Pharmacy in our department, we're a team, but I think healthcare as a system needs to be a team as well. And part of a pharmacy technician's role inside of a hospital setting specifically, you're working very closely with nursing staff. You might have communication with physicians, um, respiratory therapists. For us at Fairview, we do a lot of med messages, and that's a great way for us to communicate with other departments. So nursing, for example, will send us a med message, and we need to have the knowledge and ability to triage those issues. Whether it's they need a med or they need a medication in one of their automated dispensing systems. We are the ones that service all of that. Um, we also do nursing. They also call us rather than just med messages. So we're talking to them constantly. Also, they do come to our central pharmacy, picking up emergency kits and trays. We also need to refill those and make sure that they're getting the correct medications.
Absolutely. And you mentioned safety rounds. Could you speak a bit about that and what your role in that sort of multidisciplinary work is involved with?
So for me personally, I get reports. Obviously you don't want errors in healthcare, but it happens. And I have those crucial conversations with other staff members, with other members of our healthcare system. Hey, this is where this issue popped up, and this is how we are going to try to prevent this from happening again moving forward.
Mhm. Getting their input and perspectives with them being on the front line is very, very valuable. So that's great that you do that sort of team rounding to get everyone's input and feedback involved.
Great. Having an understanding what where the gap was in that situation, I think is very important, and then identifying that problem and facing that error head on to correct it.
Absolutely. Definitely. It's a very collaborative effort and really keeping the patient at the center of it to prevent errors from occurring again in the future. So it's very neat how the technician's role has evolved to incorporate a lot of that medication error and safety management as well. A
Exactly.
lot of different skills involved as a pharmacy technician. What do
Right.
you feel like are the most crucial skills and abilities that you most heavily rely on as a pharmacy technician, specifically in a leadership role in a health system?
Yeah, I think it all starts with communication. If you can't communicate effectively with your staff members, other members around the organization, I mean, you're not going to be very organized, right? Um, Along with that, I think problem solving skills. I think that's crucial for any position, whether you're in healthcare or not. But I think it's especially important for my position, also for a pharmacy position as in general. Um, Keeping positive, having that optimistic outlook on everything kind of keeps the morale of the team up. And also, that leads into possibly like confidence. If you have a really good understanding of what you're doing or what you're trying to implement, your staff is going to feed off of that, right? Um, Also, I think being receptive to feedback, having frontline staff, give you that valuable feedback so that you can make important changes in your department is, I think it's just so important.
Absolutely. Again, going back to the team effort involved and making sure that everyone's voice is heard, giving them a platform to do so, right? Making them feel valued in that organized effort and being confident in your decisions too, because I'm sure as a leader, you've gotten questioned on some decisions and initiatives that you've moved forward on, and being able to believe in that and express that in a very confident manner is very important. I agree. What would you say is the most rewarding aspect of your position or just working in an inpatient setting? And what are some of the most challenging aspects of your role, would you say?
Well, I think the most rewarding would be, building relationships with frontline staff members, building relationships with other members of other departments, nursing staff, things like that when I'm doing my safety rounding or my diversion rounding. I think my favorite part about my job is process improvement, making sure that we are being most effective with our resources, being able to provide that awesome care for our patients. Because I think in healthcare, that's what it boils down to is, providing that great care, making sure that our patients are having a great experience. Some of the challenges that I face every day, just prioritizing my time between like frontline staff and my meetings. That's always a struggle for me because I want to be there for my frontline staff and I want to make sure that they are being heard, like we mentioned before, and also like if they do have an issue that I'm addressing in a timely manner. Um, and I think that's also hard for me when frontline staff move on, right? Whether it's they're going to school or back to school or they take another job as a career advancement. I think those are all really hard. And then I think the last challenge would maybe identifying the best practices, from all of my experience in the past, all those different organizations, they all have their idea of what's best. And trying to having the ability to see like the good and bad and everything, and then having the confidence that you're implementing the best processes for your specific department in that organization.
Absolutely. There's definitely industry standards and so much to learn from different organizations and institutions. But at the end of the day, we do have to, target our specific processes, workflows, and our teams and the specifics around that. So it is a balance for sure. And you touched on a really great point about people development and helping them grow and advance in their careers. But at the same time, it is bittersweet to see them grow and move on and leave the organization. It's been the most rewarding part of my position as well. I think just helping people grow, but also hard to let go as well too, right? So great point on that. Over the years and in the coming years, how do you see the role of pharmacy technicians evolving? We've seen a lot of change in the past decade? Where do you see things moving into the horizon?
For me, I think our role is only going to expand. I think, the healthcare system is seeing the value in a pharmacy technician. Um, for us moving forward, I think that we are going to be able to administer vaccines, COVID vaccines, just because they do need help. I mean, this is a big issue, and I think pharmacy technicians, they possess the skill set to do something like that. Also, like the check process, with our automated system, like we need someone to operate those machines, but also like having pharmacists being able to focus more on clinical aspects, and technicians being able to do daily tasks like checking medications, I think is huge for us. And also that segues into like patient care, like we want to be able to give them the best care possible. And for us, I think that that's how we can play a role in our healthcare system. Also, like for me personally, I'm in a leadership role now, and I think that's you're going to see more technicians moving into those roles, making a big impact for their departments.
Absolutely. I would agree. I think as pharmacists continue moving into higher level clinical advanced roles, we'll see more pharmacy technicians becoming subject matter experts in operational and automation technology roles and driving that forward in terms of processes and workflows and standardizing all of that. So it's great to see how your career has evolved, starting as a retail pharmacy technician and quickly working through various different settings in pharmacy and now being a pharmacy supervisor. What sort of role has mentorship played in your professional development to get to this point?
I think it's just the leaders that I've had in all of my experiences. I think they saw a little bit more in me, and they made me aware of those good traits that I possess, and they instilled that confidence in myself. And for me, like I kind of look back over all of my experiences, and I use those mentors, those leaders as my role models, and I take those awesome characteristics that I think that I respected so much, and I try to implement them into my style of leadership. And for me, like that's how I want to lead my department, was with all of those good traits that were instilled in me through my career, I guess. Um,
Yeah, no, that's great. There's a quote about how we can see farther by standing on the shoulders of giants, which I feel like what you said ties into. We are able to see our potential, our ability for growth, and reach that by people who have been above us, who have been through more and seen more, who could then hold our hands and guide us through it and
right.
help us along that path. So that's really, really great to hear that you've had key mentors and players who have helped support you in your growth. Now, for pharmacy technicians who are watching, who are interested in taking this sort of career path and leap into pharmacy leadership, what would you recommend or advise them to be able to position themselves for success in that type of role?
Well, if you're truly interested in this type of role, maybe doing some volunteer work inside of a pharmacy, maybe doing some shadow time. I think that's very valuable, just so you can see like what a technician does on a daily basis, right? They do have pharmacy technician schools, classes. There's certifications, degrees, things that you can get within this field. So I think that's a great opportunity to kind of get a better insight of what this career has in store for you.
Mhm. And how about pursuing a leadership role? What could they do to be able to reach for some of those opportunities and be able to position themselves for a leadership role in pharmacy?
I guess for me, I took all of my experience and I use it as a learning opportunity. And that uh, every day when I showed up to work and I put my scrubs on, I'm like, I'm going to learn something new today. And this is going to make me a better leader down the road in the future. This experience that I'm learning today is going to be valuable down the road. And like, all the pharmacies that I've been in, I might take some really awesome idea from that pharmacy and implement it into my current one because it worked really well over at pharmacy XYZ. And if I can put it in my pharmacy and make it better, I think there's all the more value there. And then just getting involved, outside of pharmacy, MSHP is a great organization. They do have a lot of conferences. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think going back to what we had initially talked about at the beginning, you didn't really have formalized training in leadership or pharmacy technician work at the beginning at all. You just expressed interest, showed a hunger to learn, and really sought out mentors who could help you achieve those goals and learn that information and skills, and kind of went along that path. And I think, your story serves as an inspiration to other technicians who may want to go down this path. So I really appreciate your time in spending with me to discuss this. I think a lot of people will find it valuable just learning kind of, your path and what you went through to get to this point. So thank you again for joining me. And thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.